Ladies and gentlemen, this is the story of me going to the Caribbean and why I haven't posted in 2 months. The story starts about 2 months ago. My girlfriend came to me and asked me what I wanted to do on my birthday. Now my answers through the years never changed, and the answer is nothing. And that's what I told her, nothing, because I hate my birthday. Well, she replied to me with, no, I think we're gonna go on vacation. I didn't want to go on vacation. She wanted to go on vacation. So we went on vacation. 3 weeks later, after a very arduous process that involved phone calls, endless tabs on the browsers to find the best deal, the best location, at the best time for this said vacation, we were finally underway. We were going to the Caribbean. Dun, 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 dun. Now a lot of people would be excited, and to be honest with you, I was edging into excitement. Not fully there because again, I hate my birthday, but I've always wanted to go to the Caribbean. Maybe just for the movies, but I do love being on the beach. One of my favorite pastimes. However, the problem was that we were having to make a pit stop in Cancun. Now I know what you're thinking, Cancun, that's a lovely place to be. I mean, Inside the NBA on TNT always jokes that the rich NBA players always go there after the season. So it must be nice because they could go literally anywhere. Well, I hear you, but if you've never been to Mexico before, as soon as you step out of the airport, you're bombarded by 1,000 screaming taxi drivers, all clamoring at the bit to rip you off. However, we were semi-prepared for this, and although it wasn't a relaxing start to the vacation that we were hoping for, we, instead of paying $300 for a 30-minute taxi ride, we paid about $60, which was probably still too much, but I figured that's about what we'd pay in America, so why not? Things didn't go very smoothly at this first location. The 5-star resort was more like a 3-star motel. A 5-minute check-in process turned into more than an hour, and once we finally got to our room, it was pretty disgusting. Dirty, there was like fake nails on the table, but we were still determined to make the most out of this trip. So we were still pretty positive. That positively kind of waned over the next 2 days, and that's how long we were at this first resort. But let's skip that part and move on to the Caribbean, because now it was time to go. A pretty short catamaran ride later, we were finally on a Caribbean island, and boy was our luck finally turning around. As soon as we stepped foot at this second resort, it was a night and day difference. I mean, we met Pepe, a parakeet, in the lobby. On the way to our room, we were running into flamingos, turtles, iguanas, a bunch of wildlife, and a little fun fact about me is I love animals. This was a great turn of events. And to be honest, this resort was by far my favorite resort I've ever been to. Each room was set out like a little villa in a village. You walked to and fro to the beach, to the lobby, to all the restaurantes, everything. It was sweet. Very cool vibe. And get this, right out on the beach, footsteps from my room. Every single time I got into the water, I was surrounded by hundreds and hundreds of fish. That was amazing. Check this footage out. I mean, look at the crystal clear water and all the lovely fish. Can't get much better than that. And not only was the resort nice, but we had a bunch of things to do. The next day, we went four-wheeling. And when I said my luck was turning around, I meant it. Because usually these excursions are booked full of cruise ship goers. And if you're unfamiliar with such type of people, they're always in a rush because they have to make it back to the cruise ship so they don't get left behind. So it usually makes for a not so fun environment. However, the entirety of our group canceled. So it was just me, my girlfriend, and the tour guide. And get this, the tour guide got the vibe that we could hang. So we went faster than normal and we were able to play around. He took us at the end of the excursion. He took us to like this empty field so we could just goof off for a while. Boy, that was great. Moving on to the second day, we took a Jeep tour around the entire island. Not my cup of tea, but what was is we got treated to a beachfront lunch followed by a snorkeling excursion. And of course, as you might guess, that's right up my alley. I'm not a strong swimmer, so it turned into a workout, which I love. We didn't see nearly as much fish as the ones just right off the beach at our resort, but it was still a fun experience nonetheless because we were able to explore some reefs. Super cool. The third day, is probably the day that you guys are the most excited for, because it was finally time to Beyblade battle on vacation. Every single time I've been on vacation, I say, man, I wish I brought my Yu-Gi-Oh cards. Man, I wish I had my Beyblades. Well, this time I brought them. This was probably my first time filming in public. So I was super uncomfortable. I was sweating for a reason other than the humidity for the first time this trip. We didn't play too much for this reason, but it was still pretty fun. An awkward sort of fun. However, you can't deny that this is probably the most picturesque Beyblade battles that I've ever seen, and hopefully you've ever seen, so hopefully you enjoyed it. I'm gonna be posting them obviously in this video, but also in my shorts. Now this wrapped up, unfortunately, the second resort. We booked this trip with 3 resorts for 2 reasons. One, we figured that would give us the best likelihood of enjoying at least one of the resorts. And number 2, I booked this vacation using a bunch of credit card points. So I was just trying to get the most bang for my buck. However, hindsight being 2020, I wish we just stayed at this resort because again, it was lovely. For this third one, we were making our way back to Cancun. I know. So you can probably guess how this trip ended. Well, to wrap things up, that first resort got me sicker than a dog. Over the last 3 or 4 days, I developed a double ear infection. So not only was that first resort's room dirty, but the pools were obviously dirty as well. And I was getting sicker and sicker as the day went on. That travel day was not fun. I spent the rest of the trip, 5 days straight, in a very expensive resort room, doing nothing besides laying in bed. I only left the room to eat dinner, and even that was quite difficult. I was sweating profusely just walking hundreds of feet to the restaurant, and I couldn't even enjoy the food. Well, that's not true. I kind of enjoyed the food. Luckily, it was an ear infection, so it affected my body, but not so much my stomach. So the food was still pretty good, but I was miserable. However, again, hindsight being 2020, as we just mentioned, I'm actually glad it worked out this way. Why? Well, because usually when you leave vacation, you get kind of sad. You kind of get in your feels. You don't want to go back to your normal, boring, mundane life. But for me, I was excited to come back home. To me, the normal seemed better than the tropical paradise I was supposedly in. And that attitude of gratitude kept going, even though the travel day coming back home was long, full of annoying people, very rude people. I still was thankful to be home, which got me thinking, even though maybe it's bad weather outside, maybe I compare myself to people as we often do in this age of social media. I need to be thankful for what I have. It made Beyblade battles back home sweeter. Simple things like going for a walk more enjoyable. So I'm glad everything worked out. Boy, that was, let me see how long I've been recording this. This is 20-minute recording. Definitely not what you're accustomed to seeing on this channel. I usually don't talk this much, so my voice is starting to get a little bit more